And that when you see the Earth from space, you see it against this backdrop of just total blackness and nothingness, which reminds you that as of right now, Earth is our only home and we have to take care of it. And so every single person who's been to space, all like 620 or something at this point, they all have had this experience to some degree.
Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I'm super excited for today's guest. We have Shannon Graham. Shannon is one of the world's top coaches for visionary leaders who wants to change the world for the better by doing the impossible. His work has done everything from raise the GDP of an entire country, revolutionize immigration, and he has recently launched the world's first space mastermind. Shannon, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So I love asking all my guests my signature question by now. Who are you and who are you not?
Yeah, it's a good question. Who am I? I think who I am is a constantly evolving answer. And who I'm not, hopefully, is who I've been.
Yeah, that's also my favorite way to answer that question. I ask myself this question often, almost on a weekly basis, because I'm evolving all the time. And I allow myself to redefine myself. Like I allow myself to be someone I may not have been 5 minutes ago. And when I come to the who am I not, sometimes it's like, I'm not my past. I'm not who I was yesterday. It's that simple. And even that just gives us so much opportunity and possibilities for the day to unfold. So I love your answer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Very cool. So I want to start off first by talking about you're up to so many amazing things, but I want to start off talking about just leadership first. How do you define leadership?
Well, I think it's two-part. The first part, well, I suppose it's three-part. The first part is having a vision. A leader can really be anybody. It can be somebody like myself, or like Elon that has grand dreams for civilization and making a big dent in the universe. But it could also be like someone who's a father or a mother or someone that's a teacher or in a community. That can be a vision too. So you have to have a vision. You have to be able to communicate that vision effectively so that other people feel inspired to be a part of that vision. So much so that they take it on as their vision. And what that does is ultimately part three, which is creates other leaders. So great leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders. So you have to have a vision, you have to be able to communicate the value of that vision, and you have to be able to create other leaders.
Amazing. I love that. And so many people have misconceptions around leadership. They think it's more about being popular or being a celebrity or having a lot of money or having a lot of followers. And your three characteristics of leadership really give it a different flavor. It gives it, even more integrity, right? For someone to even create other leaders, you have to be in integrity with yourself to lead yourself first. Even to follow through on your vision, you have to be clear and have direction. And some of the people who have status, or maybe they're in the public eye and maybe they're seen as a leader, they could they may not have those. They may not have a vision that's impactful or beneficial for others. They may not be creating other leaders. It might be more of a follower type of dynamic. So really interesting there. Any other thoughts on that?
Those are the big ones, I would say.
Yeah, I have something amazing that is unfolding for the whole month of December in preparation for 2025. And that is my brand new container, Astro Aligned Business Bootcamp. It's a business bootcamp with one-on-one support, community support, and a full online self-paced course, all bundled together in one monthly membership. Again, I am launching this for the first time ever in December 2024. In preparation, it's going to be happening all year long for 2025. And you can join now. You can get early bird pricing, and you can lock in early bird pricing for your first 3 months of membership. Super, super exciting. Now, here's what it is. It will help you revolutionize your business with high-level astrology and human design strategies. Yes, operating your business in accordance to what is going to work best for your energy, your energetic blueprint. We can get instructions, specific instructions on your highest probabilities for your business. So if you are really ready to rebrand your business, re-strategize, set a strong foundation going forward, or maybe you are just starting out your business, this will be absolutely necessary and helpful, and it will help you accelerate with ease and grace. Check out the link again for the month of December. You get the early bird pricing of $318 a month, and you lock it in. You lock it in for the first 3 months. I am super excited. You'll get one-on-one strategy calls, and there's a group container, a group call every month alongside the online course material. I'll see you in the Astro Aligned Bootcamp. Yeah, beautiful. So I'm really interested in your space mastermind and everything that you're doing there. Before we get into that, like, where did this idea first get birthed? Where did you really start to manifest this, or when was it this that where were the seeds planted for you?
Well, I mean, the origin of it goes back pretty far. I have been kind of a space nerd for a long time, and in 2020, 2020, 21, that was a really big year for space because space had a lot of like big milestones in that time period. The first civilians for the first time ever went to space. And so space became this thing that was not just available for NASA astronauts, it was for anybody. And so that really changed the game. Richard Branson went to space, Jeff Bezos went to space, William Shatner went to space. And so it was pretty profound. And everything that is profound and expensive in the beginning democratizes over time. So like personal computers, for example, the first personal computer was like $1 million. And like practically nobody had them. And now you can get a personal computer for a couple $100. That's, like light years more powerful than the first personal computer. So everything that is amazing and expensive democratizes over time. So what that means is for space right now, going to space is relatively expensive. 250,000 up to 110 million, depending on the type of space experience you want to have. But as technology exponentially expands, the technology to go to space becomes cheaper. And so we're already seeing prices start to come down pretty significantly in order to have people enjoy space experiences. And so what that means is more and more people will be able to afford to go, and going to space will be something that many people will have access to. So that's all great and that's all awesome. There's another side to the equation, though. There is this phenomenon called the overview effect, which is when you go to space and you see the Earth from space, there's this transformation that happens. It's a profound perspective shift. Um, when you see the Earth from space, you see it without boundaries and you see it without borders. You know, when you look at a map, it's like, where is America and where is Mexico? Where's Canada? Where's France? Where's Germany? All of those things are just made up. They're just lines that somebody drew on a map. They don't actually, if you look at the Earth from space, that doesn't exist. And what it reminds people is that we're all one human race. And that when you see the Earth from space, you see it against this backdrop of just total blackness and nothingness, which reminds you that as of right now, Earth is our only home and we have to take care of it. And so every single person who's been to space, all like 620 or something at this point, they all have had this experience to some degree. And so my concept was, okay, that's pretty profound. Um, and if we're at a place in our evolution from a civilization standpoint where we are needing new and better solutions, because if you think about it, a lot of the challenges that we currently have, we've had for a while. Homelessness and food and energy and, you know, a number of these kind of like global challenges. Well, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. That's what Albert Einstein said. And so we don't just have to like think up new solutions. We have to create a new consciousness that can think up better solutions. And so my process over the last probably 20 years of doing this work has been kind of pioneering and innovating. How do I take people through processes that can up-level their consciousness, that can up-level their perspective? And once I learned about this profound experience in space, and I happen to be a space nerd, the two like really just went hand in hand. And so I said, what if I brought a small handful of visionaries to the edge of space so that they could have this profound experience, because then that would elevate their capacity to dream up new and better ways to create impact in the world. Yeah, so that's really where it came from.
Beautiful. There's so much there to unpack. I love the idea of that overview effect of looking at the earth from way out there and
Yeah.
getting that different perspective, almost like that bird's eye perspective. And it goes back to that saying, you know, you can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
here on earth, you know, when we're all here together, it's like we lose sight if we're not intentional about it. If we're intentional about it, we can keep it without going to space, right? But we could lose sight of the bigger picture and the whole. Like we're all one human race. We're all here together. The separation and division that's happening has been man created for different agendas, that kind of thing. So really interesting, that overview effect and how that can create visionaries or help existing visionaries gain more momentum and expand their vision for a better world. And how does that tie into leadership, if it does at all for you?
Well, I think it ties into that the first aspect, which is like a visionary or a leader must have a vision. And if someone goes to space and they have this profound kind of awakening of their perspective, then what that will do is either elevate their vision or it will completely change it to something new and better. And so, from a leadership perspective, that allows them to come back and be able to share from a completely new perspective this vision. Again, that is either like elevated or that is completely new and better. And so, that lends itself to the probability that other people will be inspired to be a part of it, take it on as their own, and then be able to bring that vision to life. So the two are very connected.
I love that. Absolutely. And with your mastermind, tell us more about when your trip is and all the things coming up.
Yeah. So currently the voyage is slated for 2026. There's going to be 8 of us that are going on the voyage. And then it's going to be an 8-person mastermind for 12 months. So, basically we're in a small container together. I'm facilitating, kind of working with everyone on whatever their kind of mission and vision is. And then, we have the space experience together. And then when we come back, it's really about integration. It's about like, okay, you just had probably one of the most, or if not the most profound experience of your life. Um, Either your vision has been elevated or has been completely upgraded. Now, what do we do with that? How do we take that and turn it into a movement, a vision, and ultimately, how do we reverse engineer it to tangible impact in the world? And yeah, so that's how all of that kind of plays together.
Amazing. And what is the duration that you guys will actually be in space? Did I miss that?
That the entire journey is about 8 hours.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, incredible. And I'm just so fascinated. I'm an astrology expert and all the things. I'm a woo-woo person, psychic intuitive. And so even just like living through you, like living through this vision right here and hearing about it is so exciting. Speaking of spirituality, how do you define spirituality or what are your spiritual beliefs?
Well, I think that spirituality is the belief in something bigger than yourself. And that can be anything. That could be Buddhism. That can be really, that could be anything that has something that gets you to believe in something bigger than yourself. Now, the irony in that is that spirituality is also kind of the realization that you are everything else. There is no difference between you and anything that you can look out into the cosmos and see. It's the same. It's just the universe observing itself. And there's something profound about that because sometimes I think spirituality has this tendency to get people to think, to depart from themselves to believe in something bigger, a bigger power, a greater power. You hear that very often. Like, do you believe in a higher power? Well, higher power than what? That's a little diminishing. You know what I mean? It's like you and I are made of the exact same stuff that exists in the cosmos. And the stuff that exists inside you and I is the same original stuff that was at the origin of the universe. So how could there be something higher than that? What's higher than that? Um, you know, and then as far as like consciousness goes, yes, there's like higher levels of consciousness, but those are not outside of us. Those we have access to those right now. It's just that sometimes something that's a reference point that is outside of us can be a reminder for what's inside of us. Um, so yeah, it gets tricky because the religious world and the spiritual world have a tendency to get people to think that they're less than something else, God, or the the 5D or the 8D or the whatever consciousness. It's like, how could you? An apple tree doesn't produce lemons, right? So how could you be less than? How could you be smaller than something else? Um, So yeah, it's a tricky conversation because it's like, yes, it's good to have an awareness that there is something beyond you, but it's not more than you. It's like you've probably heard this a lot in your world, in your line of work. It's like some people are like, oh, I channel whatever. I channel, higher dimensions, or I channel higher consciousness, or I channel extraterrestrials that have like higher level consciousness than me. I'm just a vessel. I'm a portal for the higher information. It's like, no, you're not. Because because then what does that make you? Like that means that you are not it. It is somewhere else. Like the good stuff doesn't come from you, it comes from somewhere else, which is a mistake. That's a
Mm-hmm.
mistake. That can't be true because it's all the same. It's all the same stuff. So, yeah, I find that to be a little bit of the sticky part of the conversation
Mm-hmm.
because people are feeling like there's something higher or better out there that they need to tune into, um, which by default makes them less than. It's like, I'm not the thing. I'm not the Christ consciousness. I'm not the 5D consciousness. I gotta plug into it somewhere. Well, where is somewhere? If two atoms can exist on polar opposite sides of the universe and have something happen to one and instantly happens to the other, quantum entanglement, then there is no over there. There's no
Mm-hmm.
such thing. So it's a big joke. It's all just a funny way for us to come back to ourselves with more perspective.
Hmm. Coming back to ourselves with more perspective. I love that. I love that. And I totally understand what you're saying because I've had moments where I'm like, I am God. Why do I have to say I'm an aspect of God? Why do I have to tone it down for people and say da 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 da, right? And I do anyway, because it just there's just a stigma around it, right? But what I want to comment on this while we're digging into this little tangent here is what I think what's happening is two things. When people are saying they're channeling a higher being or their angels or whoever it is, um, one, they feel, and I could also relate to this too, because I'm a psychic intuitive, and there's moments where I get information and downloads, especially when I'm with someone and we have a certain intention to dig into something deep. I know that it'll be really challenging for me to maintain that over a certain period of time. I know that I could maintain it for a short period of time and I can stay in that state. And then my human needs, my restlessness, my thoughts, like when am I going to eat? Oh, I want to go to the beach right now, right? There's a the mundane part of me will start to sneak in, and I know that I can only maintain that connection to when I'm, so to speak, getting intuitive information, things like that. So I think that's part of it for some of the people who experience that, who relate to channeling or getting downloads, and communicating the fact that they have to quote unquote plug into somewhere, right? Another aspect of it is, power is just like this sticky thing societally. And I think you're alluding to this as well. It's like it hasn't been acceptable to be empowered. It hasn't, people will call you narcissistic, they will call you, like all these names, and there will be some tension there, and almost some division because if they're not empowered and they see you empowered, then they're judging that, and then they just can create some conflict or misunderstanding. So, what are your thoughts on my perspectives to that?
Um, well, I think there's a few things to that. I think that your ability to stay in a certain state of consciousness, a lot of that just comes down to capacity.
Yes.
So, for example, there is an intensive neurofeedback training program called 40 Years of Zen. And if you've never heard of it, you should look into it. It was designed by Dave Asprey, and it is a week-long intensive neurofeedback training program. And it's called 40 Years of Zen because on average, your IQ goes up about 10 points, which is pretty significant. Your emotional intelligence goes up about 15 points. Your anxiety comes down 55%, and your creativity goes up 50%. What the training does, it does a number of things, but one of the things that it does is it allows you to access particular brain states. So, for example, you have alpha brain state, which is the Zen brain state. You have the gamma brain state, which is the creativity brain state. So what the training does is it teaches you how to access those brain states on command. No matter what the conditions are, no matter where you are or how you're feeling, you can access the alpha brain state, for example, instantly. That's pretty powerful by itself. Most people cannot do that. On top of that, it teaches you how to maintain it. It teaches you how to expand your capacity, your bandwidth for that brain state, right? So let's say you and I could both access the alpha brain state immediately. Then the next question is, well, how long can you hold that? And that's simply a capacity question. And so the training teaches you to expand that capacity day after day. The intensive training, again, it's 40 years of Zen practice condensed into a week. So by the end of that training, you can access essentially any brain state you want and maintain it for about as long as you want. So, yeah, sometimes it's a thing where we just get these pings like intuition or psychic ability. Sometimes those are just waves, because I certainly have some experience with that. And then sometimes it's a brain state. So sometimes it's a wave, and sometimes it's a capacity question. So that's part one. Part two, yeah, society, power is a thing that works best for a small group of people, and those people making sure that other people don't have it. That's Power works best for those people when the dynamic is that way. Now, that's not true, of course, because the people who have power, whatever they are doing, essentially what they're doing is just simply creating their reality the way they see fit. Well, anybody can do that. It's just that through conditioning and different things that they don't. But yeah, I remember an interview with Kanye West, and he said, if I come out and I say I'm a gangster, then people are cool with that, and that kind of fits the narrative. But if I come out and say I am a god, then that ruffles some feathers. He said, but that's like more like really at the essence of who he is. That's more true than anything else. So yeah, it's a funny conversation, but I think that we're in an era, we're in a turning point in civilization where we're all waking up. Civilization is expanding from a consciousness standpoint. And I think that the more people that can just own it and not water it down and not tone it down, those people are beacons for everyone else. And there's this tipping point in civilization for, are you familiar with the 100th monkey phenomenon?
I'm not.
Okay, so a group of researchers were observing monkeys in this one particular part of the world, and there was a hill, and at the top of the hill was a peach tree, and the peaches would fall off the tree and roll down the hill, and then they would land on this sandy bank by a river. And the monkeys would get the peaches and they would eat them with the sand on it, and they didn't like it, but they didn't know any better way, and so they would just eat the peaches with the sand on it. until one of the monkeys one day takes the peach and brings it over to the river and like dunks it in the water and gets the sand off of it and eats it and just has this immediate reaction like, wow, this is so much better. And the other monkeys, monkey see, monkey do, look at the monkey and go, wow, that's a good idea. So they all start doing it. And as the theory goes, when the 100th monkey did that, there was this global consciousness upgrade where monkeys on a completely different side of the world that were also being observed out of nowhere all started doing this washing thing. And so after a lot of research and kind of putting that whole thing under the microscope, what they discovered is that civilization has a tipping point where if a certain number of people hold a particular level of consciousness, the whole thing gets upgraded.
Yeah.
So we are starting to reach that escape velocity, and we will. The time frame is kind of sticky, but over the next like X amount of years, we will arrive at a completely new era of consciousness because of people like you, people like me, standing in this truth, really, and allowing that to be a beacon for other people to do the same thing. And then once enough of that happens, then the domino effect goes into full swing.
Hey, Super Soul, have you ever thought about how expansive your life purpose actually is? Have you ever just thought about it? Well, here's the thing. Most people just think of their life purpose as being one thing, and that's never really the case. Or most people just think of it as like this vague, mysterious, general idea, or just like one word, right? And that's a great start, but there's so much more in store for you to really master the details of your life purpose. And when we have a framework and when we have the answers and almost like this instruction manual that comes from your astrology and your human design charts, we get concrete ideas and concepts that you can execute with strategy, confidence, and clarity. So check out my Purpose Report program. It is a one-on-one container, and also starting in 2025, it will be one-on-one support plus group support. Now, this is different from the Astro Aligned Business Bootcamp. You don't need to have a business to join the Purpose Report program. This is really about your life purpose. And so I encourage you to check out the link, take the quiz on the website, see where you're at, and just start taking those first small baby steps towards, again, not just discovering your life purpose. This is not just about discovering your life purpose. I really don't like that term because it doesn't really give us anything. What does that mean? Discover our life purpose. We need to master the details. The diamond is in the details. The rewards are in the details. The momentum is in the details. The success is in the details. So go to the link for the Purpose Report program, check it out, take the quiz. There's a soul purpose alignment quiz. That is step 1. Take the soul purpose alignment quiz, and that will lead you to the next steps. But just take that one small baby step, and I will see you on the other side. Have a fantastic day. Back to the show. Yes, yes. It's exciting stuff. And we have to stay present, right?
Sure.
Yeah, yes. I think some people can get so caught into what's to come or when we get there. Like everything will be okay when we get to that shift that you were just speaking about. But it's both. It's be here now. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Amazing stuff. So fascinating. And what is your vision as we're expanding, as we're shifting, everything that you just talked about? What are some of the things that you're hoping to see unfold in the world, whether that's other space masterminds like yours, more leadership, whatever it might be?
Well, um, I think that we're going to see this amazing combination of really advanced technology combined with higher states of consciousness. And the combination of those two is going to be really cool. So, for example, it's speculated that by 2030, 50% of the global work population will be wiped out because of robotics and AI. Now, a lot of people are worried about that because those 50% of the workforce like don't want to lose their jobs. Ironically, 80% of the global workforce are not happy with their jobs. So
Right.
it's like, yeah, they don't want to lose their job, but they're not happy with their job. So it's kind of like, I know this is going to sound kind of funny, but it's like being in a relationship with somebody that you really know you're just not meant to be with. And you just don't quite have the courage to break up with them. And then they come to you that day and they're like, I'm sorry, this just isn't going to work. And so they kind of like rip the band-aid for you. That's what AI is going to do for everyone. Like everyone that really is not happy at their job, but just doesn't have the guts to quit, AI is going to be like, okay, I'll do it for you. And that's actually going to be a beautiful thing
Yeah.
because they don't want to be at those jobs in the first place. So that's number one. Number two, it's easier than ever to create financial abundance with your passion than ever before in human history. And so there are people like those people won't have a choice anymore. Those crappy jobs won't be available anymore. So they'll have to lift their head up and they'll have to think about what is it that I really want to do? And again, being an entrepreneur is easier than ever. And there are people these days that are making like ridiculous amounts of money with really obscure passions, like really, really niche stuff that like you or I would just not be interested at all. But like in order to make a really good living, you genuinely only need about 1,000 like true raving fans. Whether
Yeah.
you have a product or a service, if it's a service, then it's even less people. But like if you have a product, people talk about like influencers and hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of followers. If you have 1,000 solid raving fan followers, and like financially you're good with like most people don't even need to be making millions of dollars. Most people's ultimate lifestyle really is like maybe 150 because what's the average income in the United States? It's like $50,000. Like, so it's going to be this amazing reality where people don't have to do what they don't want to do anymore, and they can do something beautiful. They can do something that's closer to their heart. They can do something that's more integrous to who they are. And ultimately, when you create something that's more aligned with who you are and what you are, it's probably more valuable to the world. So the world benefits, you benefit. And as a function of doing that, you become a beacon for other people to look at you and be like, wow, maybe someone finds what you're doing and is so inspired that they decide to do whatever it is that they want to do. So again, it becomes a domino effect. Um, yeah, so it's pretty exciting from that standpoint.
Yes, I love that. And 100% agree. Passion, purpose, that's where we're headed. The AI ripping the band-aid off for us needs to happen. I've shifted my work into helping people with purpose work type stuff just because of it. Just because of that, the shift that's happening with AI and what's to come. And really good analogy, by the way, because I think we could all relate to that relationship analogy you just gave us, where we're in that relationship. We know it's not thriving. We know it's a survival relationship where we just get through each day and it's just it's painful, but it's comfortable because only because of fear. We're fearful of what's to come next. And so
Yeah.
people can keep that relationship analogy in mind because I know there's a lot of fear around AI. There's judgment, fear, anger, all kinds of stuff. But if you can expand your perspective, embrace change and evolution, because that's what I think this reality is about, then you might be able to see a different perspective.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff.
Cool.
And how does someone, how do they get involved with any type of space stuff, whether they want to create their own mastermind, whether they want to join yours in the future, what are some first steps?
Um, well, if they want to join mine, that's just as simple as reaching out to me and having a conversation. If they want to start their own, that's a great idea too. That would really depend on a couple different factors. There's a number of different types of space experiences that you can have at this point. So that would be one of the places I would start, which is like, okay, if you're going to have a space mastermind, which space provider do you want to utilize? And then you would need to like build a relationship with them and then you'd have to get people that are interested. It's a funny thing. In this stage of where we are in the world, I would imagine that a lot of people would want to go to space. And I think on paper, a lot of people do. But when you actually draw a line in the sand and give somebody the opportunity to do it, there's still this collective fear and uncertainty about going to space for a lot of people, which is understandable, unfortunately, because of some of the tragedies we've had in the past. But I think that as successful missions continue to happen, which they have been so far, then that's going to kind of like rearrange that collective consciousness, and more people that are open to it on paper, but like when it comes to actually pulling the trigger are afraid. I think that fear is going to start to dissipate, and we're going to see more and more people wanting to do it.
Amazing, amazing. And I think we all know, but I just want to ask the question directly to see what your answer is. What is your passion and your purpose here right now at this time?
Um, well, my passion has remained the same since I was like a kid, which is really just helping people.
Mhm.
But it's helping people in the context of helping them become a more real version of themselves. Like we all want to be a little more of something, whether it's courageous or real or visionary or something. We all want to be a little more of something. And I'd probably add that we all want to be a little less of something. I want to be a little less skeptical. I want to be a little less fearful. I want to be a little less hesitant. I want to be a little less fill in the blank. And so, as a function of helping people become more of whatever it is they want to become and less of whatever it is they don't want to be, that's such a beautiful process for me to be a part of. So that by and large is definitely my passion. And so my purpose really is just to create new and different ways for that to unfold, for that to happen. Different types of programs, different types of experiences for people to do that.
Amazing. Amazing. I love this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And any other words of wisdom before we close out to leave us with?
Well, I think that we live in a day and age where you can really be and do and have and give anything that you can imagine. That's always been true. That's always been true. It's just been harder in the past. Like I was saying earlier about being an entrepreneur, it's easier than ever to be an entrepreneur. Like if let's just say you and I decided to start like a t-shirt company today, by the end of the day, we could probably have a website up and be selling t-shirts like by the end of the day. That's crazy. That's never existed in the history of ever. And so if you are watching this and you have an idea or you have a vision that you feel passionate and inspired to do, my suggestion is like do it because it's easier than ever to do it. And whoever it is that's going to benefit from whatever it is that you want to create, whether it's a product or a service, those people are real. They're not imaginary. Like the pain that they are experiencing from not having your product or service is very real. They woke up today with that. And the sooner you can bring that vision to life, the sooner you're going to be able to help those people. And the flip side of that is like the longer you wait, the longer those people are going to suffer. And so that's not cool. So yeah, I would say, if you have something you really want to do it.
Absolutely. It's a great piece of wisdom because so many people struggle with doubt, self-doubt, and what
Yeah.
people call imposter syndrome and all those things. And it's like people are experiencing pain because your service or product is not out yet.
Yeah, 100%.
So
And
that can like really squash. Yeah.
if we're really going to go there, it's selfish because it's like they're making it all about themselves. I'm afraid, what if it doesn't work? That's all revolved around the individual.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, there are people that genuinely have pain in some way, shape, or form that your product or service could help. And so it's really about getting out of your own way, remembering that it's not about you. You had this, you were called to this vision as a servant, as a way to help other people. So it's really not about you. So if people can sidestep that whole ego side of the conversation and really just get to the helping of people, then everybody benefits. And I genuinely believe, no, I don't even believe, there's a phenomenon in the universe called emergence. And what emergence is things in the universe coming together to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts. We see that everywhere in the universe, especially on Earth. Water and plants and trees and oxygen all play together. They all work together to create something bigger than the sum of their parts. A human being, if you took a human being and if you dissected it and you laid it out on a table, all the bones and the blood and the tissue and the tendons and the everything, you just laid it all out. And if you had never seen a human being before, and you looked at the table and you looked at all the ingredients of a human being, you would not ever come to the conclusion that those ingredients could create their own reality. That's pretty profound. So that, by and large, tells us that the ingredients create something much greater than the sum of the parts. But what's absolutely fascinating about emergence is that the universe actually has a bias for the probabilities that are synergistic. So what that means is, if you want to create something in the world that benefits people other than yourself, then you actually activate this magic in the universe called emergence, and the universe conspires in your favor to make that thing happen. And so, if you want to do something really great for the world and you're worried about, like, what if it doesn't work? The universe wants it to work. And so you have that in your corner to help you. So I think I can tell you that knowing that has helped me embark on some of the big, bold visions that I've done. And maybe it's helpful to somebody else as well.
Yes, absolutely. What a powerful message. It's such a good reminder. That one never gets old. It's always needed because we're always outdoing our conditioning. Again, thank you so much, Shannon, for being here today. And what's the quickest way for people to find you? All your info will be in the description box. What's the quickest way?
Instagram.
Cool. And what's your
Yeah.
handle?
The Shannon Graham.
Amazing. Thanks again. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Namaste. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Hey Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. I can't wait to share next week's podcast episode with you. Now, to stay up to date, go to the link for the Power in Podcast website. Sign up for the newsletter so you can actually get on our newsletter and you'll get monthly emails about our podcast episodes ahead of time. So you'll get to see which episodes are planned out for the whole entire month, so that way you know when to tune in. So check out the Power in Podcast website. You could sign up for the newsletter to sign up for those updates, or maybe you just go to the website and check out all the episodes that are highlighted there. Thanks again. Have an amazing, inspiring day.